gentle reader. It's back. Hello my loves, I'm Miss MonMon. Welcome to my channel. Today is a very exciting day because it is the release of season 2 of Bridgerton on Netflix. Now, if you aren't aware what Bridgerton is, it is a period drama set in about 1813. If you aren't aware of Bridgerton, it is set in 1813 England, and it follows the story of the Bridgertons as they make their way through society and, of course, look for husbands and, trouble ensues. The costumes in Bridgerton are quite iconic, and even though they are not historically accurate, there is no way these colours and these features would have been used. That aside, I personally find the costumes so much fun. They really tell you a lot about the characters' inner feelings and thoughts as they navigate the ton and all of society's rules and regulations. You really get an insight as to who this person is from a deeper level. I know the costumes are quite divisive. Some people want it to be historically accurate, but the way I watch Bridgerton is that it is a historical fantasy. It is quite inaccurate in hairstyle, in makeup, and of course fabric selections, that would not have existed. But it is good fun. Today is the release of season 2 of Bridgerton, and I have always wanted to try making a dress based around the Regency period, so that is what we are going to do today. I had trouble deciding whether I wanted to do a Regency dress inspired by the Bridgertons or the Featheringtons. And through some extensive research, and by that I mean a BuzzFeed quiz, I was a Bridgerton. So that is what I'm going to be doing with you today. I am not confident enough to make my own patterns just yet, and also because I've never sewn anything from this period, I kind of wanted a guide. So I went with a pattern from Butterick, and it is Butterick 6074, but it has now also been changed to a McCalls pattern as McCalls 8132. This pattern has two different dress styles. Dress A, which has a train, and dress B, which doesn't, but it has a yoke on the bodice. I decided to go with style A because I am a sucker for a dress with a train, and I kind of regret my decision knowing now what I know. I knew I wanted a dress that was a little bit Daphne inspired, as personally I love the color blue and all of her blue dresses are just jaw-dropping. So I wanted to make something like that, and I found this fabric online from an Etsy seller, and it is basically a strong tulle with some embroidered roses, and the color was stunning. It is a light blue, but it does have little slithers of silver in it, which gives it a tiny little bit of shimmer, even though it's not historically accurate, but it's Bridgerton accurate. I noticed a lot of the Bridgerton dresses have appliques attached to it, and even though it's not a Bridgerton family style, it's more of a Featherington, I couldn't help myself and I just wanted to see what it looked like. So I also bought some 3D embroidered lace. Now I only bought a meter of this because 1 meter of this cost me more than the 4 or 5 meters I bought off the blue tulle. So, my budget basically went here. The main fabric for my dress, I was going to go with a plain cotton, so I went to Homecraft Textiles, which is, I say my local, but it's like a half an hour plus drive to get to. And I got this cotton, which is the exact color I wanted. There were a couple more blue options and a couple more gray options, but this one was right in the middle. And it is absolutely perfect, so I grabbed about 3.5 meters of this. So let's get started. I found this pattern a little bit tricky, and I don't know whether it was my own lack of skills, but as someone who's a visual learner, I've never seen a garment from this era. I've never even seen videos of one being made with the 2 drawstrings, so it was certainly a little bit difficult. Cutting it out, everything went fine, although I don't know whether it was just my pattern, but when I put my skirt pieces on the fold line, it's like it wasn't straight. So if I really lined it up, it almost made the rest of the pattern warp. No idea why, or whether it's just mine, but maybe now that they've moved to McCalls, that's been fixed up. I started with the bodice, and all my bodice pieces I basted, which means I had the cotton fabric with the rose tulle on top, and I attached them together, so when I sew the pieces together, they're counted as one piece. I basted on my machine, but you can baste by hand. I just found on the machine a lot faster. Putting my bodice together, it came together so quick. I was super surprised, and this gave me a false sense of when I would finish, because I managed to do the bodice and the sleeves in one sitting. I can't believe that I thought I would finish this dress in 2 evenings. I started having issues when I reached the sleeves because I had to gather. What I didn't realize I should have done was unpick a lot of the roses in the tulle, because when I went to gather them, they obviously wouldn't scrunch up, so I had really weird gather patterns. I also found that normally I would sew either 2 rows of basting stitches and then gather, or I would do the dental floss method and then gather. I ended up using just the by hand method and sewing in a basting stitch and using that, just because the tulle having the embroidery really made it difficult to scrunch up. So that is my main tip, is cut off any embroidery that's in the way of your seam line, because it makes a huge difference. I attached my sleeves, and I don't think they sit straight, and I only noticed it in the end when my dad pointed out that one was sitting flat and the other one was curved upwards. But by that stage, I was absolutely done with this dress and didn't want to unpick and start again. This pattern did push my sewing skills, and it asked me to do things such as a prick stitch all along the neckline, which would create a drawstring base. At first I panicked because I thought I'm not very good at hand stitching, but I watched a quick tutorial on how to do a prick stitch. I will link that down below because it really helped. And it was done in no time at all. So definitely push your sewing skills. The part that threw me, and I think it threw me so hard that I wasn't able to come back, was the inset. So under the bust line, I had a inset, and I couldn't wrap my brain around what the instructions were asking me to do. It just wasn't coming together, and the pattern asked me to attach the bodice to the inset and then attach the skirt to the inset. Because I didn't have the ribbon, I sort of panicked and didn't know what to do or how to pin it up without a ribbon, but I knew I needed to create a drawstring. So what I ended up doing is, was cutting out my pattern originally, I just pinned the inset piece onto my fabric when it was folded. So when I cut out one, I actually cut out 2. I pulled that second inset that I sewed, folded down the sides, and then sewed it by stitching in the ditch along the bodice lines. It wasn't neat, but it got the job done. One thing I couldn't understand was, when I had sewn the inset, how do I close the ends without sealing off the drawstring? Because, you know, I would normally fold it over and then hand sew it down, but that would stop me putting the drawstring through. I honestly just left the edges raw because I think I was just so overtired and overstressed at this point that I wasn't thinking clearly. Another issue I came up was when I was attaching my skirt to the inset. The pattern instructions told me to match my notches and my seams, but there were more notch indications in the skirt than there were in the inset. And I couldn't figure out where these notches were supposed to magically line up. Was I supposed to line them up to the top of the inset and the bottom? But then how would they attach? For a drawstring, I did have some drawstring on hand, but it certainly wasn't the drawstring for this pattern. So I ended up just finding 2 pieces of ribbon that I had. Even though they're 2 different sizes and 2 different colors, I'm just gonna go with it. And they will become the drawstring for my neckline and my underbust. We're just gonna go with it. The pattern did challenge me whilst making the skirt because I had to sew my first ever front seam. I have avoided front seams because they've always seemed really daunting to me, and I like to add pockets in. I don't know how to do front seams but add pockets to skirts. So I've been avoiding front seams, but for this one, because the tulle is see-through, I knew I had to do a front seam. I did manage. I'm sure it would be a lot better and cleaner, especially if I had remembered to cut some of the rose tulle embroidery out. But, you know, I learnt a new skill and now I can add that to my sewing repertoire. There wasn't that much skirt to actually hem, and normally I would overlock the ends and then just sort of roll hem it. I rolled hemmed it like I would normally, but because the tulle was so slippery, I had to pin every single part of the hem down, which took a lot of time, and it was slippery and the pins kept falling out, but eventually we got both things hemmed. I then went ahead and still wanted to cut out some appliques from the fancy 3D kind of tulle and lace. I don't know whether adding this elevated my dress. I personally said it looked a little bit more homemade costume by this point, and I wanted to remove everything that I had hand sewn in, but my dad said he thought it looked cute. I don't know. Please let me know if you think I should unpick the 3D appliques or just leave them, because I think it's not the look I was going for, and I think I just wanted to use the super expensive fabric that I bought for no reason now. And finally, the last thing I did was throw some hook and eyes along the little butt opening. I did not expect this pattern to be so difficult. While sewing up this dress, I watched a lot of YouTube videos on anyone who had ever sewn a Bridgerton dress, just hoping that somebody would be able to explain how the drawstrings work, and nobody did them, or at least didn't show on camera how they were done. So what I think I want to do is try a different pattern, either maybe style B from this McCalls / Butterick pattern, or try to Franken pattern a few other things that I have to try and figure this out, because there's got to be a reason that I just couldn't figure it out. But she's done. This is my dress. She looks a little bit better on, so I guess you want to see what she looks like, right? To give you the full effect of Regency period, especially in the early 1810s, I tried to do my hair accurately. Even though in Bridgerton they don't have Regency hair, I really just wanted to go ahead and give it a go. But I think on, she looks a lot better, especially from a distance. She's the perfect color, but I don't think this style suits me very much. I feel on me it looks a little bit like a maternity dress, but I think I'm just so used to wearing 1950s where everything is quite fitted around the waist that anything with an empire neckline just seems really foreign to me. A lot of people get put off when they try on historical based garments because they don't feel like it looks historically accurate, and that will come from the undergarments. Now, around this time period, women would have worn a chemise, which is basically like a slip, and then they would have worn stays, which is similar to a corset, but it doesn't give you that crazy waistline that a lot of people think when they think of a corset. Stays just sort of kept you all together, pushed you up a little bit, and that would have been your main undergarments, maybe some pantaloons or drawers basically. When I was sewing up my bodice, I thought, oh my gosh, I might even have time to sew a chemise and my first pair of stays. So I actually got some patterns in, but because the dress ended up taking me so much longer than I thought, I just ran out of time. So what I am wearing in these clips is I have a 1950s slip on, which was blue, so if it does peek through, you can't see anything. And I'm just wearing a normal underbust corset. I know these aren't historically accurate, so please don't tell me that they're not historically accurate, because I know they're not historically accurate, but I just wanted to get a bit more of a feel. I want to do this project again because seeing all the lovely Bridgerton sewing videos, everyone's dresses just look so incredible and they're so inspiring to go out and make your own, and I don't feel like I did that. As I said, I just struggled. I don't know whether having a migraine for 2 weeks straight really scrambled the way I think. If you would like me to try again, I would be more than willing, and I think I can really take my time and order in some fantastical fabrics. I'm so excited to see season 2, and hopefully I will be inspired by a dress and just have to make it. What an adventure. That is all I have time for you guys today. Thank you so much for spending some time with me and watching me struggle in my sewing. If you would like any more details, close-up photos, or a written review of this pattern, you can find all that in my blog, as well as links to where I got my fabric from, and I have also incorporated a list of similar patterns from other companies in case you would like to try a Bridgerton dress of your own and you're a little bit put off by this pattern. This pattern was not easy, but I have found some other ones, and there's even an official Bridgerton dress which was released by Simplicity, so all that information is in my blog, which you can find in the description box below. I hope you all have a wonderful time watching season 2. I am so excited. My entire weekend is just going to be watching season 2. If you'd like to follow me on any of my social media, they will all be linked down below. But I will see you guys all next week with a brand new video. But until then, be kind, be true, be you, and have a beautiful week. Bye! I have to relive the trauma of this dress, don't I? Also, no mean comments about my hair. I tried Regency hair for the first time. Not sure how I feel about it.